Well, good morning, friends. It is a joy to be with you. If we've never met before, my name is John, and I am a flawed and failing human being trying to figure out how to live this life. So we're all in good company. This is a special holiday. You may not be aware of it, but today is the day after Valentine's Day, which means I go to the grocery store and I enjoy half-price candy. It is my gift to myself. It is a way of loving myself. So if you see me out there, just wave. We just passed through Valentine's Day, and what began as a rather bizarre pagan fertility holiday marked by debauchery and perverse violence has evolved into a manufactured shopping day, supposedly devoted to love, right? One where millions of people face a stated or implicit peer pressure to make lavish expressions of affection and appreciation to their partners and spouses that they haven't made the other 364 days of the year. And I have always gotten this kind of perverse enjoyment going to the grocery store on Valentine's Day Eve or even afternoon and watching the sort of frazzled panic of overcompensation as people, mostly men, let's be honest, scramble to find something to atone for a year of less than stellar partnership. And now, thanks to social media, Valentine's Day has also become an occasion to make people who are single for any number of reasons feel self-conscious about that fact, as if they are less of a person if they are not part of a couple. And I wanted to begin by letting you know, if you are in such a place, you are a whole and beautiful and complete person worthy of love as you are without another beside you. Now, Valentine's Day obviously leans into the romantic relational context of the word love, but it shrinks love down, doesn't it? And that's something that we're all guilty of. We use the word love all the time. We love our spouses and partners. We love our kids and our parents. We love the beach and the mountains. We love God, some of us. We love Taylor Swift, which is redundant for many people. We love our country and we love the world. We love cheeseburgers and cheesecake. We love a new pair of shoes and a new streaming service. Love is the stuff of endless pop songs and poems and ad campaigns. Love is ubiquitous, which is why it's easy to allow something so vital and beautiful as love to become a trite and hollow cliche. See, our language is limited, which makes it easy to misuse love or to overuse it or to forget how powerful a word it actually is. I like to think that we are ultimately a community that comes together to figure out what love looks like in its widest and deepest and most complex form, to decide how we tangibly express whatever is at the core of that word, both individually and collectively. Because any spirituality not built on love seems like a waste of time anyway, and yet if we look around, we see great evidence of a religious worldview that is bereft of love. And we know that we don't want to be those kinds of people. Now, many of us grew up in a religious tradition, and so we have that tradition as the filter for what we understood about love. Now, I was raised within Christianity and its sacred text, the Bible, and there are several different words translated into English as love, and they helped me understand the breadth of love. There is this word eros or eros, romantic, affectionate, this sexual expression of love. That is the red hearts and chocolates and flowery kind of love, right? There is the Greek word storge, which refers to a natural or instinctual affection, the love toward a parent or the love a parent has for a child. There's the word philia, go Philadelphia. It speaks of a sense of community, friendship, a tribe of affinity. And then the word agape, which is this expansive, relentless love attributed to God or a creator. It is an aspirational love for everyone and everything, relentless, unconditional, unstoppable. So you've got this romantic word for love, this sort of instinctual love for family version of love. You have this sense of community kind of love, and then you have this all-consuming, relentless kind of love. And for as much as my tradition in the Bible I have some discomfort with, a great deal, I liked having these various kind of manifestations of love, because in our modern language we've largely lost the nuance required to describe the forms that love takes in our lives. Which is why I can use the same word for my adoration of my wife as I do my appreciation of a quality pastry. I love both of them. In my Christian tradition, I also inherited the command to love in a variety of capacities maybe you have. I was told to love God. And I was told to love my neighbor, and love my neighbor as myself, so I had to love myself. And I was supposed to love the least of these, those in need, and I was supposed to love my enemies. And no one ever explained to me how I was supposed to do these things at the same time. How was I to love the oppressed, for example, and love the oppressor? And I have no answers yet for how to do that 56 years into my life. There's a phrase we use, and it's called tough love. You're familiar with tough love, right? Tough love usually refers to delivering some hard words to someone else, words they need to hear, or being made accountable for a mistake. But I want to repurpose the phrase tough love today, friends. By tough love, we mean we have to love when it's tough. When we have to forgive when we don't want to forgive. When we need to admit wrongdoing when it's difficult for us to do it. When we need to give someone space to make their mistakes. When we need to try and love people we don't like. When we need to sacrifice something for someone else. I wonder what kind of love is the toughest for you right now? Who are you finding it tough to love? Where are you finding it tough to express love? I think love is about seeing, honoring, and celebrating the humanity in front of you and seeking proximity to it. So dehumanization is the opposite of love, not hatred and not indifference. It's refusing to see the humanity in front of you, and we can see the way that love is absent of so many people's hearts right now, can't we? And so with all the things and the people and activities that we ascribe to love, how can we know what is truly love and what isn't? And I think it comes down to the emotional price that we are willing to pay. Love is going to cost us something, friends. Loving someone in an intimate relationship costs us in vulnerability, in compromises, in challenges, in persevering, in yielding to the needs of another, in forgiving and being forgiven, in working and fighting and staying, in leaving the last cookie for them. My wife and I have been married for 29 years, and one of the reasons I think we've stayed together is because we've both been equally willing to invest in our marriage, to sacrifice and to move toward the other. It's been beautiful and amazing, but it has not been easy, and it has not been cheap. Loving someone we love costs us in grief, in the sense of loss that is impossible to fill after they're gone, in the mourning that accompanies us, always hovering in the periphery of our lives, the painful absence we experience when there is a physical or emotional separation. Grief, they say, is the tax on loving people. It is the inevitable price for being loved well. It is the necessary payment on the accrued capital gains of intimacy and memories and time and proximity. So love costs us when we grieve. And loving as a parent or grandparent or caregiver costs us in a billion worries, in late nights waiting for the door to open or for the phone to ring, and sacrificing sleep and time and plans and aging upon our faces, hallelujah, in order to help steward them through life. It costs us in the form of being the butt of dad jokes and eye rolls and being viewed as old and uncool, even when that is not true. It's been said that raising a child means having a part of your heart exist outside of your body, and that's a poetic way of saying that parenting will kick the snot out of you, right? Loving people as an advocate or activist or ally costs us in the risks we take, the relationships we disrupt, the turbulence we face in speaking boldly and with specificity. We know how gripped with tribalism we have become, how fractured our nation is, and we know that if we step out in any way to affirm the humanity of a marginalized, oppressed, or discriminated against group of people, we will endure the pushback from those who disagree with us. And history shows us that love can cost people's lives. We can see throughout our collective human story that people who demand a love that expands the table are seen as confrontational and threatening by those who would resist that bigger invitation. The love necessary to bring justice or fight discrimination or affirm human rights will bring a response of hatred and violence. And I know I've shared this story with you before, but I want to share it with you again, friends, because I was in Austin probably 2 years ago, just after the election, actually. I was with a group of pastors and Christian leaders and progressive folks from all over the country, and there was an African-American pastor there who had grown up in the civil rights struggle. And he said, I don't know if we're prepared for what it's going to cost for us to push back against what's coming. And he said, people will be inconvenienced, people will be hurt, people will lose something, and people will die. And I haven't forgotten that, because to me that is the place where love is most costly. And we've seen people who have paid that cost even in the last few weeks of our nation's life. And yes, of course, all of these expressions of deep and complex love, they come with priceless rewards and blessings and gifts and goodness. We get so much out of connecting our humanity to someone else's, but we don't get that for free. Love is valuable, and so love is costly. It is messy. Love, in its truest form, is a spending of yourself on behalf of someone else. So as we think about the state of the place we call home, this nation so fractured and besieged by sorrow, and when we think about the prolific cruelty that some people seem capable of, it seems that this tough kind of love that we need most right now is a someone love. And I'll explain to you what I mean. Growing up, my mom would say something like this: can somebody get me the laundry basket? Somebody? Anybody? Someone? Now, that was because she had ascribed names to each of us. My brother Brian was somebody. My sister Michelle was anybody. I was anyone. And then there was probably a bad word that followed in the fourth if nobody answered. But we would go, somebody, there you go, get it, somebody. And so many times a day in the work I do, people talk about a new piece of legislation that's filling them with anxiety. Or they comment on a video of a person being driven into the ground by ICE. Or they lament the continued lack of transparency regarding the biggest human trafficking investigation in our lifetimes. And they'll often punctuate this commentary by lamenting that they wish someone would do something. Why won't someone stop this? And we so easily forget that we are someone. That we are not forced to be passive participants in this life. We are living, moving, creative, talented, passionate human beings with proximity to pain and agency in alleviating that pain. What would it look like if every single person who was disgusted and disheartened and looked around at the suffering and the injustice and the despair and said, someone should do something and I am someone? And so that is the someone kind of love that I think is going to change the trajectory of our nation. I was FaceTiming with a good friend of mine who lives in Minneapolis. And he spent the last 2 months in the streets nearly every day alongside thousands of his neighbors. They've shown up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They've been tear gassed and shot at with rubber bullets. They've been chased through the streets of their communities. Many have been beaten, arrested, and unlawfully detained. Every day this has been happening, 24 hours a day, and most people in the nation don't even know it's happening. And when I asked him about the danger and the risks of being there every day, he said, where else should I be? He knows that someone needs to stand and protect his neighbors and support his community, and that he is someone. Now, hear this, please. Living a love that says someone needs to do something and I am someone may propel you into a war zone where you put yourself in harm's way or risk arrest, but it doesn't need to. It could move you to offer a couple of volunteer hours for a local organization that supports immigrants and refugees. It might inspire you to be more outspoken on social media so that you fill those spaces with a dissenting opinion to the bigotry and prejudices that people you know are perpetuating. It might push you to reach out to your immigrant neighbors or coworkers or classmates and get to know their stories. Or maybe it might cause you to reach out to your immigrant-fearing neighbors and do the same thing. I get it. Listen, there are so many good people who are exhausted by the bad news, beaten down by the scope and the scale of the suffering. And many of them say, maybe you've said it, I just can't watch the news anymore. Or it all gets me so depressed that I can only take so much of it and then I turn it off. I feel exactly the same way. And then I remember that even having the option to do these things is a sign of my great privilege. I drive in traffic, or I walk through a grocery store, or I sit on a bench at the park and I see my Latino neighbors, my brown-skinned neighbors, my foreign neighbors, and I remember that opting out is simply not on the menu for them. They don't have the luxury of not living with urgency because urgency follows them. And so the love that I want to believe that I aspire to is a love that opts in to the messes and the uncomfortable conversations and the discomfort, not in a way that's reckless or arrogant or seeks injury, but in a way that embodies that tough love, loving when it's tough. Because this kind of tough love is fierce and audacious and courageous and bold. This kind of love doesn't sit quietly while bigotry bullies the most vulnerable in our communities. Tough love will not be tone police into making nice with discrimination. Tough love does not apologize for its passion for humanity. Tough love is dangerous to injustice. It confronts ugliness and it welcomes turbulence. Tough love will drive us out of the safety of our privilege and into the discomfort of the trenches of other people's lives. Tough love will be called ignorant and angry, and it will love anyway. And ultimately, love is something that's costly, but we have decided that it's worth paying for. You know, we love to use the phrase love wins, don't we? Got it on t-shirts, bumper stickers. I bet there's some in the parking lot. I have about 5 shirts that say love wins. I think it can be said that love wins, but it may require overtime. And we are currently in overtime. My father used to have this phrase. I'd be talking to him on the phone, and there'd be a lull. I'd be complaining about something, talking about some adversity or something I didn't like, and he said, nobody said it would be easy. I hated when he said that, because I was like, that doesn't help me. But he was reminding me that the obstacles and heartaches and gut punches we regularly log here during our time as citizens of the planet, well, those come with the territory. It seemed like a throwaway line to me. Nobody said it would be easy, but the further I walk, the more gravity it possesses. See, most of us imagine that life should be easy, especially in the country in which we live. We should be able to go through our days without discomfort or turbulence or pushback of any kind. And we're usually genuinely surprised when they show up. We look around and we see all manner of emotional disasters befalling people, and the truth is, we rarely believe those days should or will come to us. In fact, a lot of people watch the news right now and say, that's terrible what's happening to them. But what they feel is a false fear that they are safe. See, life is not at all easy these days for those of us still straining to believe that love wins. If there's ever been a season where such an idea was more stretched to its limit and its breaking point is this one, because we see it. We see the attrition of our friendships. We see the disconnection in our families. We see the acrimony of strangers, the fractures out there in the world. And it all feels fairly hopeless at times, doesn't it? That's not a rhetorical question. Doesn't it feel hopeless sometimes? We feel resistance to love, and we mistake that for our failure. But this pushback to goodness shouldn't surprise us or dissuade us, and it should not be mistaken for defeat, because love has never won because it's gone unopposed. Love has won because it's a persistent, stubborn son of a you-know-what who believes that people are worth fighting for and bleeding for and waiting for and sacrificing for, collectively and individually. Love is not proven only in passion, but in time as well, in the perseverance of its work within, around, and through us. And when I look back in the rearview mirror of my days so far, love's character is so very clear. When love is won in my marriage, it's won because in the face of some very dark days, when leaving would have been easier, love chose to stay. When love is won in my family, it's won because it's decided to endure the deep flaws that only show themselves at close proximity. When love is won in my parenting, it's won when I push through fatigue and selfishness and distraction to be fully present for one more storybook or one more uncomfortable conversation. When love is won in my heart toward others, it's won because it's resisted my most ingrained and fortified places of greed and vanity and fear. When love is won in our nation, it's won when a few brave people step directly into the path of a popular but ugly movement to begin a new, beautiful counter movement. To say someone needs to do something and I am someone. C.S. Lewis says these words about love. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, your heart will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. But to love is to be vulnerable. So I still believe love wins because ultimately love is an act of defiant persistence, of staying, enduring, and waiting when they all feel counterintuitive. Love wins by the choice we make to have one last conversation, one more plea we make, to give one more day, to make one final stand. It wins when we pass through a night of hell and in the morning still manage to somehow greet the sun with expectancy, like today. Love wins in the open hand we extend when we would much rather prefer a closed fist. So friends, in the relationships you're grieving over, in the world you're lamenting, and the internal change within you that feels impossible, keep going, because There, in your steadfast refusal to let the separation and bitterness and apparent defeat have the final word, that's where love does its true winning. This is the work of the people of love. It's the work they have always done and the work they'll need to do today. So keep your eyes open for the places and times and circumstances that you so wish someone would do something, and remind yourself, I am someone.